Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm painting up a really special model called the Face of Evil from Nerickson. And as soon as I saw the model, I thought it would make a really cool Trench Crusade Desecrated Saint Proxy, even though it's not really in the Trench Crusade aesthetic or style. It is, however, exactly how I would picture a desecrated saint to look like. And I just love the half angelic and half demonic style of the model. So I decided to paint it up for my collection. And for the most part, this model was painted using dry brushing in conjunction with a little bit of airbrushing. And this combination is not only fast, but also looks great and needs very little traditional brushwork. So let's get into the tutorial. And starting from a black primer, I'm going to jump straight into painting the skin. And the reason for this is that I'm going to be using the airbrush for the skin, and this is going to be one of the messiest parts of the process, and there's going to be a lot of overspray onto the other parts of the model. And it'll be really easy for me just to go in with some black and touch up any of this overspray. So I'm going to tackle the skin first of all. And to do that, I'm going to be using some Rowney Peach Pink ink. And I'm going to be using this as my mid-tone for the skin. And I'm just going to try and build up a nice even coat across all of the skin areas. And it's worth noting that I didn't glue the arms for the model into place, which will allow me to remove them and easily paint in the face as well. And once that's applied, I'm then going to come in with my highlight colour, which can be any colour brighter than the previous. And for me, I'm going to be using some Army Painter Opal Skin. And I'm just going to apply a very quick spot highlight of this to all of the upward facing areas, which would be the top of the knees, shoulders and chest. And you don't want to overdo this. This is just a spot highlight, and you want to leave plenty of the previous colour still visible. Then I'm going to come in with my shade colour, which is going to be some Citadel Caraboard Crimson, but any kind of dark reddish tone would also work. And I'm just going to spray this from the bottom of the model, a bit like a reverse zenithal highlight. And this should shoot the red ink to the underside of the model and up the sides and blend in with the previous skin tone. And I'll also carefully spray this into any deep recesses that are across the model as well. And if you do overdo this part, you can just go back in with the highlight colour and kind of go back and forth with these two stages until you've got a nice even gradient from the reddish recesses to the bright highlight skin colour. And this is a great technique for painting up a super fast but silky smooth skin, which has mid-tones, highlights and a really interesting shade colour as well. And you can always push this further by going in and glazing on some brighter highlights with a brush. But for me, I was really happy with the way it was, so decided to leave it at that. And now that I was happy with the skin, it was time to turn to the angelic wings. And for that I'm going to be using some Army Painter Company Grey, and I'm going to be dry brushing this on the entire feathered wing area, and also the wings that are on the base as well. And I'm not doing anything too special here, I'm just using a very small amount of paint on the tip of my brush and building up the colour slowly over multiple passes until I build it up to a nice off-white colour. Next I'm going to be working on the demonic side of the model, starting off with the Army Painter Blacks and Greys Triad, and I'm going to use these colours to build up the highlights on all of the black skin, and eventually build it up to an off-white in very select areas where I'm going to be applying the red filter. But for now I'm just going to be building up the highlights across all of the skin on the demonic side. And again I'm just going to be using a dry brush here, and starting with the darkest colour I just want to apply a fairly heavy dry brush across all of these areas, which should bring the model into more of a deep grey rather than the black primer. I'm then going to move on to the next colour in the triad, which is the deep grey, and I'm just going to be applying this in the exact same way all over all of the black areas on the demonic side. But this time I'm just going to be a little bit lighter with the amount of paint and pressure that I apply, which should leave the previous colour and build up a little bit of a gradient and build up a nice highlight to all of the black areas. I'm then going to be switching to one of the brighter colours in the triad, which is the Company Grey. And again I'm going to be using this a little bit like a reverse zenithal, only this time I'm going to be using it with a dry brush. And the idea here is that I want the light source from the demonic side to appear like it's coming from the bottom left of the model. So I'm going to be dry brushing all areas that the light would be hitting if it was coming from the bottom left of the model, and leaving all of the upper areas and areas towards the right still in the highlighted black colour. And this is going to help with the next step, where I'm going to be applying some red contrast paint, so hopefully it'll all make sense soon enough. And before proceeding with the next step, I am going to cover all of the skin areas with some masking putty, just to protect it from the next step, as I am going to be using the airbrush again, this time with some Vallejo Express Intense Seraph Red, which is one of my favourite red colours. And I'm just going to be applying this to all of the brightly highlighted black areas from the previous step, pretty much again like a reverse zenithal, trying to hit it from the bottom left hand side. And when I was doing this, I didn't thin down this contrast paint. However, it is quite a thick paint, so if I was doing it again, I would definitely thin it down. I was constantly having to clean the tip of the airbrush after every few sprays, but eventually added a little bit of thinner, which helped tremendously. Next, I'm switching back to the Army Painter Company Grey, and I'm going to be using this to paint in all of the robes on the angelic side. And I'm switching back to the dry brush here again, and you just need to be careful that you don't dry brush onto any of the skin areas here. And for that reason, I normally switch to an older brush that's slightly frayed but not completely destroyed, and use this to slowly build up the highlights. I next wanted to paint in the eyes, and this was a little bit tricky to show on camera, but all I did was base coat the eyes in some black, and then come in with some white and paint over the black while leaving a little bit of the black still left in all of the edges of the eye socket. And then came in with some ultramarine blue and painted a small dot in the centre. And to finish off the face, I quickly went in with some Citadel Caraborg Crimson, which was the same colour I used to shade the skin, and just use this to quickly paint in the lips. And for those of you that are still watching the video at this point, I want to introduce you to the best painting handle that money can buy, and only costing around £20 or $30, is the Ray Studio V-Pod handheld vise, which doubles as a painting handle and a miniature split vise. And this is a product more geared towards Gundam painting, but it is absolutely awesome and perfect for Warhammer and Trench Crusade, and is really handy for painting in all of the little bits that were sub-assembled. It holds them all perfectly within the vice grip, and even comes with some metal sticks that can be covered with some supplied rubber tubing to make sure that any gripping isn't going to damage any of the paintwork. I absolutely love this handle and highly recommend it. It's a solid metal product and it's machined to perfection. Everything just screams quality with this product, and I'm definitely going to be trying out some more of the Ray Studio products in the future. But for now I'm going to use this to clamp in the arm and paint in the face mask, which I base coated with some Army Painter Castle Grey, and then went in with some Army Painter Tainted Gold to paint in all of the gold trim. I'm then going to go in with some contrast paint, and in my case I'm going to be using some Vallejo Express Battle Dress Brown, and I'm just going to be applying this all over the gold, which is going to apply some additional shade and make the colour a lot more richer. And then I'm going to come back in with the same tainted gold and just apply some very small select edge highlights across all of the gold areas and towards all of the areas that would be catching more light. And once that was done, the model was now complete, and all that was left to do was reattach the arms to the body. And I'm not sure, but this might be one of the best models I've ever painted. I really like the smoothness of the skin in combination with the split between the angelic and demonic parts of the model. If this was a competition piece, I definitely would have went back in and touched up a few of the areas, but since it's for my display shelf, I was happy the way it was. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if there was anything that you would have done differently. And as always, a massive thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers and to the new YouTube members as well. I really appreciate all of your continued support, and I'll see you in the next one.